Good morning, guys, and a happy Thursday morning to you. Okay, my format today is a little different. I have royal family, then Harry, Meghan. They're kind of interspersed depending on the stories, so just hang in there with me because there's a lot to cover in this video. So let's just jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We're starting off with a new royal baby, but it is not from the British royal family. Princess Mako of the Japanese royal family has welcomed her first child with her husband, Kai Komuro. Ooh, I hope that's right. They live in New York, and both mother and the child are in good health, but they didn't reveal the name or the gender of the baby. Now, this girl is the niece of Emperor Naruhito, and she left the Japanese royal family in 2021 because she married a former university classmate who is a commoner. So by law, she was required to give up her royal status, and she moved to New York where her husband works as a lawyer. They have lived there very well, peacefully, quietly. They don't have security. They simply are living their lives. Now, the family came out and said that the only reason they're making an announcement is because media reports have come out about the birth, and they really just want the family to be left alone. FYI, they got engaged in December of 2013. They announced the engagement in September of 2017. They married October of 2021 behind closed doors without all the traditional, pomp and pageantry of Japanese royal weddings. And the girl was entitled to a £1 million payment under Japanese tradition, and she refused it. She just decided she wasn't taking the money. And this child is the first grandchild for the crown prince and crown princess, her parents. And I just think that's lovely. Congratulations to them. All right, let's move on. One of my subscribers sent this to me. Her name is Christina. She was getting these emails from, I don't know, it's about the Diana Award. Remember, they want people to pledge to invest. They want money. And not only do they want money, they want volunteers. We're recruiting. You're recruiting volunteers. Well, where's all the money going that you're collecting? I don't know how her name got on this list, but yeah, unsubscribe yourself, girl, quick. All right, moving on. Several of you wrote to me in the comment section and had something to say about the way Meghan Markle was cutting the pineapple. This person pointed out that what she's been doing has been around for years, but she's doing it wrong. And this subscriber pointed out that this method of how you cut it was on YouTube. Maybe she got it off of YouTube. That's a possibility. I mean, I told you guys already, people's reaction to this video was not good. They're saying her trick is simple, old, and she's treating her viewers like they're stupid. Somebody actually wrote, imagine Netflix trying to convince Meghan that the world isn't effing stupid. She really does think that people are stupid, and she knows all these tricks. And these are things that most people have known since they were children. One person wrote they were losing brain cells. I told you, I think they're splitting season 1 up because they're re-editing the crap out of her stuff. All right, let's move on. We're going back to Princess Anne. When she was ending her trip to Barbados, she visited the Barbados Defense Force Emergency Medical Team. She met medical staff, toured the field theater, saw the emergency care capabilities and actions, and she said that this visit highlighted their vital role in disaster response. Also, on the same day, Princess Anne celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Barbados Olympic Association alongside staff members. Now, some other things that Princess Anne did on this visit, some I reported to you, some I did not. She met some study groups. She attended the Caribbean Canada Leaders Dialogue and Report Back Dialogues, which I told you about. She also attended a board dinner as well as a closing plenary reception dinner hosted by the conference. And also some video came out, I've already reported this to you, but some video came out showing the Princess Royal laying a wreath and attending an 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day service at the Barbados Military Cemetery. She always looks amazing, and I'm hoping that this is the end of the event stuff, that's trickling in from this visit so we can move on with her. All right, let's move on. All right, next up, King Charles. This came up on Twitter. I was unaware of this. They're saying that the king made an impromptu visit to the Dante Museum, which opened in November. And apparently he was like, darling, come and meet these people, these wonderful people. I love them. All right, next up we have Secret Weapons Sophie. She attended an afternoon tea honoring women of distinction in the UK. This took place at the Castle Hotel on June 2nd in Windsor. I love this color blue on her. It's like a cornflower blue. And she just looks so effortless, you know what I mean? I love it. It is a beautiful dress. I don't remember seeing it on her before. And of course, a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for showing us what she was wearing. Let's move on. All right, this is a little bit scary. At 1 p.m. on Sunday, June 1st, a man entered the restricted grounds at Windsor Castle. He very quickly was challenged by the Met police officers and arrested. They're saying he did not enter the inner grounds of Windsor Castle, but he was trespassing on a secure site. He also apparently had drugs on him. He has been bailed and an investigation is ongoing, but what's so scary is apparently William and Catherine and the children were home at, Adelaide Cottage right by the castle. All right, let's move on to our Harry Meghan stuff. I just wanted to touch on this. They're talking about their rescue dogs, Mamma Mia and Pula, and they compare themselves to Queen Elizabeth and her love of dogs and how they rescued these poor dogs, but horrible circumstances, and what wonderful dog parents they are because nobody else in the world rescues, dogs. I'm sure you guys have been on my other channel. You've seen my rescue animals, but according to this article, they're just the best. All right, here we go. It's supposedly the daughter Lily's birthday. It's her 4th birthday. We have seen these pictures of her before. She had blonde hair, she had brown hair, she has red hair. She's color corrected. Harry said it was down, she was sitting on it, and then her pictures came out. That wasn't true, but whatever. Meghan's decided to release pictures to mark her birthday, and these pictures show a narcissistic mother. Let me explain. First of all, in the full picture, Meghan makes sure that you can see her pinky ring and her wedding ring. Okay, very important that you see her jewelry that she's wearing. The main point is the daughter is not the focus of the picture. Meghan is the focus of the picture. And the little girl, this is all you see of her. And quite frankly, she looks scared to me in this photo. She looks like, who the hell is this woman holding me? Or maybe she's nervous because, in case you haven't noticed, this picture was taken on the boat. Remember the boat trip where we saw Harry holding Lily? And once again, conscious parents that they are, there's no life vest on the kid, which is against California state law. They're boating without a life vest. Maybe that's why the kid looks scared, but that's where this photo was taken. Actually, when you look at Harry's picture, Lily's wearing something different, which shows that they take the kid out on the boat on a regular basis without a life jacket. And let the merching begin because it didn't take long. They were putting out exactly what the little girl was wearing so you can purchase it too. Now, we know in her podcast, she's putting out everything about her pregnancy. I put in weight in the front. I had complications from pregnancy. Everything was pregnancy, because she's trying to prove to you that she gave birth to the kids. She puts out this photo. Let me tell you what I see in this photo. She's holding her child who is perfectly clean, swaddled, and when I first held my child, he was covered in blood and everything else. I mean, you don't get a perfectly clean child right after delivery. Personally, I feel like somebody else delivered the child and then they gave it to her for that skin to skin that you get. You know what I mean? This picture does not prove anything. Now, if she'd handed one of those other ones over, I might have believed it. And in case you guys haven't figured it out, the gloves are off and the full-on merching with the kids is on. So much for we need to protect their privacy for safety. Here we go. If you can believe this, Meghan is convinced that the in-laws were behind the defeat of Prince Harry's security court case, which has him on the hook for a $2 million payout. That's how much I told you, his attorneys are cleaning up. So apparently, Meghan is blaming the royals for trying to bleed them dry, turning her and Harry into paupers. They're having monetary problems. And so now the family's going to have to pay for their own security, basically, and she's not happy. They decided not to appeal because if they lost, they would have to pay legal costs for both sides. And they're saying that Harry was determined to make his point, and he really believed the court was going to side with him, which in my opinion shows just how delusional he is. Yeah, pony up the money yourself for your own security. All right, next up, I just wanted to touch on this also. Sun's Royal exclusive show, broadcaster Esther Krakow, I love her, said that with Meghan, there's nothing there. She's like, I'm not saying this to be horrible, but she's not an entertainer or an entertaining person. She doesn't have a personality. I never learned anything from her. I love lifestyle shows. I watch them every day, but I don't learn anything, and I didn't learn anything from hers. She's just not entertaining. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our big story for today. Oh my goodness, here we go. Brooke Shields. Remember, she was doing the International Women's Day panel in Texas in March of 2024. Everybody had their own microphone, which means Meghan had her own microphone, which was a mistake. We know how she is with a microphone. Anyway, Brooke Shields was on a podcast run by India Hicks. And what she said about that event was that the tone quickly became overly serious because Meghan started answering open question. She had told India, Kate asks the first question to Meghan and talks about how at a young age she was already advocating for women, etc., etc. And Meghan starts telling a story about how when she was 11, and she keeps saying, well, when I was 11, I saw this commercial. And they were talking about washing dishes, and only soap for washing dishes was for women. And she said, I don't think only women wash dishes. It wasn't fair. So I wrote to the company. And when I was 11, I wrote my first letter. And when I was 11, and she kept saying she was 11. I'm like, she said, feeling the heaviness in the room, Brooke then recalled how she attempted to break the tension. She goes, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I've got to interrupt you there for 1 minute. She said, I was trying not to be rude, but I wanted to be funny because it was so serious. And I just wanted to give everybody here a context as to how we're different. Well, when I was 11, I was playing a prostitute. She was in Pretty Baby at the age of 11 because she actually is a Hollywood star. She said it just became more relaxed after that. It was like they're not going to want to sit here for 45 minutes and listen to somebody be serious. And Brooke's comment was a reference to the breakout role I told you about in Pretty Baby in 1978. Anyway. Now, that just goes to show you that while Meghan tries to make everybody think that she's friends with all these women off screen, they're not. And I think we've all heard about that letter constantly. We've already debunked the letter. She did not change the commercial with a letter. We've already covered all that in previous videos. But I love that Brooke was like, okay, enough already. Nobody else wants to hear about this darn letter. Well, I'm glad she did it because I like Brooke Shields. And quite frankly, I'm sick of hearing about when I was 11, I wrote a letter. God. All right, let's move on. All right, let's move on now. Comedian and podcaster Tim Dillon. He's got a podcast over 1 million subscribers, and he never holds back when it comes to taking aim at Meghan Markle for her victim mentality. So we know that she has frequently been the subject of his rants on his podcast, which is the Tom Dillon Show, which launched in 2019. And he gave an interview with Fox News Digital, and he said that the former Suits actress has become one of his most comedic, targets. And the reason is she came to prominence when there was a real cultural cachet to being a victim. And I thought it was very funny to be known as a victim, and she found a way to be a victim while living in a castle. He said, I think she's a great comedic actress. I think that there was real currency in being a victim when she rose to prominence and she became the victim living in the castle, married to a prince with the royal wedding. And I thought that was very, very funny. And let me tell you, it's hard to pull off, but she did it to her credit. Most people that were putting out that they were victims during an era when, to their credit, not members of the royal family. Never. And as far as her influence over Harry, he said, Harry seems like he's kind of been led around and he kind of doesn't know what's going on. It's probably an adventure for him. All right, 2 more things I want to touch on. One, they're saying that Meghan and Harry set up that new royal court, and it was driven by her record low popularity and a realization that she now has no chance of any political career because Trump is now president. Now, it's very interesting what these articles are talking about. So they have their own royal court of staffers, all who are white, to take on demands. And they're saying it actually takes generations to create a royal household. So what they have is a cheap knockoff of the real thing. It's being suggested they're trying for their own brand of royalty, but what they don't understand is that we don't have royalty in the United States. They want it to be American royalty, and it's not working out. What you are now looking at is the royal family that the world acknowledges, not Harry, Meghan, and their kids who have nothing to do with the royal family at all. All right, let's move on to our last thing. And finally, let's not forget that Meghan has just dropped a new picture on Instagram claiming that she's restocking after telling everybody that she was not restocking because she was taking a step back. People are wondering what's going on. Well, according to Neil Sean, Netflix had no idea she was pulling that crap, and they literally said to her, get back to work. We didn't tell you you could take time off. We've invested all this money into your products, and you need to get back to work. They're also the reason why she dropped that behind-the-scenes clip. They're absolutely livid. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. If you've already subscribed, double check, make sure you're still subscribed. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the links to my Twitter, Gettr, Rumble, email, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale, a link to my second channel, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.